Hey, welcome, episode 10. I just left off trying to figure out, let's see our terminal here. Yeah, so we were trying to figure out how to bin by week, and I started by figuring out the remainder divided by 7 of the death index so that we can figure out the offset to figure out where to actually start the week. Yeah, okay, so let's actually go back to pencil and paper. Hopefully y'all can see that here. There we go. All right, so the idea was this is like normal, right? 0 through 6 is a week. Let me flip that for y'all. So I calculated the remainder, right? So if we went 9 to actually be the middle, right now, 9 mod 7 yields the value 2, which makes sense because it's in position 0, 1, 2. But we actually want it to be in 3 to be in the middle of the week. So let's see. I think if we do, so we want it to be at position 3, right? So if we do, let me see here, writing upside down, this is weird. 3 minus remainder. Really writing like sideways. Oh, is that backwards for everybody? That's awesome. I'm not writing inverted. Anyways, 3 minus the remainder, that will give us, in this case, the remainder is 2, so it'll give us a value of 1. So let's see. Let's say we add that to the value. So let's say 9 plus 1, that would be 10, because we want it to essentially be the 10th spot, so that makes sense. So then if we did 10 mod 7, we get a remainder of 3, which would make sense, which would put that in the middle. Which means if we did 10, that value 10 divided by 7, and round down, it would be in week 1, right? Because this would be week 0. This would be week 1. Okay, so let's test to make sure that works. So if that was the case, we would expect everything to be kind of bumped over this way a little. So we'd expect 6 to actually end up being in week 1, not week 0. So let's take 6 and you add 1 to it, you get 7. So then 7 divided by 1 is 7. Or 7 divided by 7 is 1, which would place it in this week. So everything just shifted over. So I think my logic makes sense. Let's go back to the code. Here we go. So let's try that out. So now we know the death index remainder. So we know the death index, let's say a const remainder is death index divided by 7. And so what we want, our offset basically will be, say, remainder minus 3, because 3 is the middle point of the week. And then, so we'll use offset and add that to each. So as we loop through each day, so now let's do this. And let's actually slice this to the first one so we can actually do it. All right, so we've got offset. So now what we want to do is add a week to every single, so we're going to be looping through person page view data, which is this. So basically we want to figure out which week each of these should belong to. So we're going to take that timestamp index and add the remainder to it. So let's see. So let's map over person page view data. And we're going to return, all we're going to do is return everything, but then add a week to it, which will be b dot timestamp index, and we need to turn it into a number. Plus offset divided by 7. And I like to use, so let's say mid week index is 3 times week 7 is in week midweek index, and order of operations here. Let's see what that spits out. Log SMP data const with week. Oh, Caitlin's going to be joining. Need to grab her the URL. 1 second. All right, so I hope that it was showing my screen before I didn't press the button. I'm not sure if it was. Hopefully it was. All right, let me clear this. PM on by week. What happens here? Hey, Caitlin.
Hi. I still have a cold, if that wasn't apparent.
Sorry. Oh, holy, that's not even, oh, wait, we didn't round. So I'll show you what we just did in just a moment. So let's see, run that again. Those, you can see here, we've got the week now, which is looking, I think, good. We have some negatives, which may or may not make sense. Okay, let me go back to the logic to show you what I actually did. Oh, and this one might be weird because he's the first one. So his date of death, I think, was this first one. Let's do. Which could cause some complications. I think the logic makes sense though. Okay, so death index was 0, which meant, oh, so the logic, Caitlin, for figuring out how to bin weeks, because I want the death index to always fall in the middle of the week.
Got it.
Shoot. Okay, so the logic, and this is mirrored for you, right? Like, so this is totally in reverse.
Yes.
That sucks.
This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is fine in the center. So wait, actually, I don't think it is. I think it's fine.
Oh, wait, you're seeing the numbers written like normally? They're not backwards?
Yeah, no, it's written normally. It's fine.
Oh, weird. It's backwards for me. Okay. So, the logic was basically, here's my formula. So take the midweek index, which is 3, and then subtract the remainder. And I'm actually looking at my logic in here, and it's backwards on my code. I'll wait until we switch over. So the example was 9. So 9, the remainder of the value was 2. but I actually want it to be shifted over 1 because, right, I want it to be 3, essentially. If that was the day of the death, let's pretend. So then it would be 3 minus 2 is 1. And so then to compute the offset to figure out what week it's in, I would just then do the index, in this case 9 plus 1, which means it would act like 10. So then 10, the remainder of 10 divided by 7 is now 3, which means 9 is like functionally the middle. So then when I'm computing the week, I would just do 10 divided by 7, and it would be in week 1. And the reason that works is like if you do 6, that would technically be in week 0, right? If you're doing, if you did 6 divided by 7 and rounded down. Don't worry, I'll wait for you.
No, we're good. Sorry, just boss.
So yeah, if you do 6 divided by 7, that would round to 0, obviously. But if we assume that 9 was the death index, it would actually be 6 plus 1, which is 7 divided by 7, which would be round to week 1, which would actually put 6 in week 1, which makes sense. It makes sense to me. Anyways, the diagram's getting messy.
I think that was a good thing to recap.
It still makes sense, so I think I'm onto something.
See, you've ran through it twice now, so that's more confidence.
All right, so what I was just looking at, though, is my formula is backwards here, so I actually want to do midweek index minus remainder, the offset. And so in this case, it's going to be weird because I'm going to have death index at 0, which means 0 mod, 0 mod anything is, wait, what is it actually? I think it's still 0 mod 7. Yeah, 0. So that makes sense. Does that make sense? Probably not. 3. Oh, right, it does, because then it'll be 3 minus 0, so the offset should be 3 because we basically want to right shift that 0 thing over. Okay, so let's rerun it now and see what it spits out. Okay, we're good now because I flipped it. So, this makes perfect sense. So let's look at this. So this was the day of death, which means we want this to functionally be in the middle of the week. So it makes sense that there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that make sense? And then the next week starts. I feel like it should actually be one more, or one less. I mean, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I feel like this one. Let's do one that makes more sense. Let's like A31. Well, the good news, it looks like there's, okay. Oh, -1. Death index is 39. Okay, what does that really mean? So 39 mod 7, right, is going to be 4. According to my math, let's step through this. We'd have 3 minus 4 would be -1, which makes sense. We'd want to shift it 1 actually over to the left. But a week of -1 is interesting. Though I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that actually does make sense because the week number is actually meaningless here. Kind of. Because all I really care about is grouping them. Though -1 is just going to be problematic when it comes to computing. Because really, but actually, No, I'm into this logic because we actually don't want to use, we'll just like cut this one off because this is not a full week, right? There's only one day in here. So that wouldn't represent a full week. So like the first full week starts on this one. So should I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then, yep, and then it starts over again. And so then when we look for, what was it, 39? So let's go to timestamp index 39. That should be smack dab in the middle of whatever week it is. 39. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So that is perfectly in the middle of the week, which is what I was going for. Does that make sense? Okay. So I think the question is going to be like, do I actually include stuff like this first one where it's not a complete week? And I think the answer is no, because this is less about the exact timeline, because all the weeks are going to be slightly, they're not going to all have the same exact starting point, obviously. So it's really just about, so they'll all be shifted a little bit by up to 7 days, I guess, on both ends. But I'm pretty sure when I was thinking about the weeks, I wasn't thinking about showing the full time span anyways. Like I'd probably show just whatever, like a year before and after, or a couple months or a month before and after. So I'm good with this. Yeah, because I think I want everything to center around the date of death rather than this arbitrary July 1st date. So like real time doesn't make isn't as meaningful.
I agree.
But that also does mean that like I might be filtering the population down to not include anyone that like doesn't have whatever at least, I don't know, 2 weeks before. Like if they died like the first week in, or the first day in July 2015, that means I'm going to have no previous data to compare it to, so they might not make the cut. Okay, so we've got the weeks binned. Now I actually want to compute the values for each week and spit that out as a file. So got a nest. Let's see. Nested equals d3 dot nest. Entries is with week. And we want to key it around that new week value. And we want to do a roll up because we want to compute a new value out of this. And so what do we want to do? We want to do a couple things actually, because I mean, we could do the raw page views, but I think I'm mostly curious about the percent traffic. So we can do the total page views and we can do the percent traffic. So let's see. Views is going to be v3 it's b dot views, and it's going to be as a number. So remember, we didn't clean this all up, so it's going to just do it maybe there. Traffic is going to be a little harder because we can't just, or sorry, percent, because right, we can't just average the percentages. That's not how it works, right? That wouldn't be entirely accurate. So we need to actually take the sum of all the page views and then find the sum of the page views on the total pages on the same day and then calculate the percent. So, well, we've got the sum, which is just views. So now we need to actually dip into the wiki page view data, which we do have. And we need to find the sum of just the dates that match the timestamps that are in that values array. So let's see here. Okay, timestamps are the same. So to do that, we have to say const filtered wiki page views is wiki page view data filter. And let's go ahead and just, so values, by the way, is going to be like an array of 6 objects, or sorry, 7 objects, 1 for each day of the week. So it's going to be like that. So we want to just have an array of the timestamps from that. So we'll say const timestamps equals values dot map the timestamp. And then the wiki stuff, we just want to filter the things that are in this timestamps array. So if we say timestamps, actually, wiki, timestamps dot includes w dot timestamp. So now filtered wiki page view should be an array of 7. And so now we can say const total equals p3.sum. Filtered wiki page views. This is not how it works. E dot views. And then percent, and let me make sure I'm just using the same thing, percent traffic. Traffic equals views divided by total. And so now we can return views and percent traffic. Actually, let's also return week. Let's return all the things actually. So those are still there. So yeah, what is it? Well, actually here, const week and timestamp. And let's also grab timestamp index. Values of 0. So it's just gonna, because, wait, those are gonna be different. All right, so it's just gonna grab the first one because that's the start of the week, right? So I guess that makes sense. So let's return all those things. Index. Oof, okay. And then, well, let's log that out and see what it looks like. Sweet. So right, this is key -1. That was the one that only had a single day. And now you see the rest of them. It looks like those are summing nicely. I'm just gonna have to spot check. I'm pretty confident that percent traffic is doing its thing. But I will spot check once we push stuff out. And it's still keeping the week, and the timestamp is the first one of that week. So you see how we have this nice jump of seven days. So that means it's working. So yeah, now we just want to turn this into an array and write it out. Actually, we should probably hang on to actually, we're going to write it down. They're each going to be written out as their own file, I think. Yeah, we'll keep them as their own file for now. Okay, so now we want to flatten that. So const flat equals, we'll pretty much just get rid of that whole key thing. Is nested.map, and we return d.value. Right, now that cleared it. We don't care about the key. And then I'm gonna actually, you know what? We're gonna do one more thing here. Const length. So count is going to be how many values there are, right? Because I said I didn't want to include stuff that's not a full week. So this will make it easier to filter. Count. And then now we can say dot filter e dot count is equal to 7. So only use full weeks. And now it's fs dot write file sync output there slash assuming it's id csv equals d3 dot csv format flat output. All right. Let's run it. Let me make sure my output directory is good. Yeah, it's people by week. And I sliced it so it only has one of them. Let's do it for everybody.
My favorite part.
Mm-hmm. What you can't tell is I'm texting right now. Okay. Now what I should have looked for the shortcut by now of collapsing the folders. So people by week. This looks good. So we see that it actually, I forgot, I didn't know, they don't need count, but it looks like it only included things with 7. So 2015, 07, 07. So perfect. This one's good. So, right. So, this one obviously should have started on 01, but it didn't. So, it bumped the real start date was the 7th here. So that means the slicing before and after is working. Let's look at, so this is Alvaro. Let's look at, I'm assuming his page views are more around like 30 a day. So hopefully we see that here. And we do. So that summing was definitely working. And the percentage should be pretty much exactly the same as these, but just like slightly different. So let's just check to see what that's looking like. It should be around 8 point. Oh, wow, that's crazy. To the -8 to the -7th, something around there. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, so let's actually look at like, and yep, there should only be, this one has 100 and, really? That seems like a lot of weeks. This has been recording for 3 years. That's too many weeks, right? 52 weeks in a, oh wait, no, that makes sense. 52 weeks in a year. That's exactly right. Let's look at like Bowie. David Bowie. Okay, so at the peak, his percentage got to like 2%, or so we should see it go to like there. Oh, was that it actually? That's 0.2%. Is that right? Hold on, let's. Bowie. Let's look for the surge. Oh, that is right, because I am summing, right? So it's actually going to take it. It's going to take into account the stuff on either side. Which, so like obviously when you bring together, let's say like 0.002%, and then it bumps up to that's going to be 0.2%, jumps to 2%, but then back down a little bit. That explains why it's never as high. But still a lot higher than it is on average. So the highest he actually hit was for a week was 0.1% on average. But if you look at the usual, it's usually like 0.04%. So significantly, or 0.004%. Yeah. Okay. So this still works. We're just not seeing, obviously, the single day surge is obviously not nearly as much, which is totally cool. Because that's not the point of this specific binning. It's not to see that spike. Okay, so I think it's working. I'm content. So now we've got that. Okay, let me check that in. Bit status, CAC, calculate bin weeks. Okay, let's go back to the Google Doc. Added this thing. What is this? 0 out by starting day of death. Oh yeah, so I just wanted to add indexes. So we've got the timestamp index for if we're actually trying to have like normalized time. But now I also want to have an index for how many what am I saying? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, how many, if it's how many days before or after. So 0 would be day of death, and after would be positive, and before would be negative. So where should I add that? Let's see. Again, and then I can like run the prepare for web so we can get the week thing and everything nice and tidy. Then jump back into visualization. Okay, let's check the readme again. All right, so we just did that. Details, that's a no. We'll probably do it in prepare web actually, because that's a pretty basic task. That makes sense. Yeah, I think this is a good place for it, because we also have to prepare the other thing. And actually, let me look at filter population. That was pretty straightforward, right? Yeah, cool. All right. So let's go to prepare for web. So a lot of stuff went down here. People, page views. We're gonna have to also add in by week page views. Okay, so page views is what we want to modify. So get page views, which is why I did some stuff. And so this is where we can go ahead and add the before and after index. So let's look at what right now it's bringing in people joined, which is cool. It's actually gonna want to bring in people page views now, right? Because I think oh no, I lied. It's totally bringing in people joined still. Yes, people joined. Yep, so we now have the timestamp index. We're going to just compare that. Actually, we just have to do a simple subtraction from death index, and that's all it is to get the, we're running out of index names. So we have timestamp index, and then for people, we have timestamp of death. Somewhere I thought we had. Didn't I do a death index in here somewhere? I feel like I'm losing my mind.
I feel like I remember that.
Death index. I didn't apparently. I must have just calculated it on the fly.
But didn't add it in.
That's my guess. Okay, let me go back to what did I modify? Oh, I think it was in. Oh, it was in joint people. Oh no, I just did the timestamp index. Yep, pretty sure. Get people pages. Yeah, I'm not seeing it anywhere. Why did I? Hold on, I must have used it. Oh no, it was just in the last one I was doing in the week, which was right here. But I didn't record it because that. Okay. Whew. So we got the death index again. Which oh wait, we have some timestamp of death. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we have to do data.find index person timestamp of death. Okay, got the death index. That makes sense. Now to calculate, we'll go ahead and call that death index in here as well, or it's going to be confusing, but that's not here. The death index will simply be, and actually we need to include timestamp index because that wasn't in here before. Timestamp index. And death index will simply be timestamp index minus that makes sense. That should give us the negative positive. And then for by week, what do we need to do here? So I'm not sure there's too much we have to do with this. I guess we have to, we definitely have to add a page ID. Okay, so we'll do the same kind of Same kind of deal here. Digi data. Right, because we want to do the same thing with pages, turn it into a single file. So by week, digi data. Week, output, and map over people. And this time it'll be get page views by week. This is by week. Okay. Copy this function because it's going to be pretty similar. Except this time the data is going to be people week. Don't. So it'll be a little more difficult, I suppose, to calculate the week death index, right? Because we have this timestamp. Oh, we have the timestamp index. We'll just have to do subtraction, I suppose. It's not going to be exact, will it? This is the start. Oh, we just have to offset by 3. Okay. This is like the ultimate. I'm kind of talking to myself and probably not making any sense. Like I'm finishing the sentence in my head.
I'm just like nodding, like kind of like this. Like keep going. Formatting.
All right. So in this data, we have a timestamp, so it's going to find it. So that's cool. But it's not going to be looking for the exact one, which is actually kind of problematic because it might not have the exact one because it could be. It actually won't have the exact one because it'll be like if it's 12. Sorry, if it's that, it's going to be somewhere in between these two. So how about I do this? It will convert this to a number. That made it a little more complicated. So map over data. All right, so we're going to map over the data, and we're not going to do this. We are going to convert timestamp to a number. But should we add double zeros? What was the double zero for? Hold on. Person, right? The person needs the double zeros. Okay, and let's actually convert that to a number. And then subtract. Okay, and actually, you'll see what I'm doing here in a second. I'm also gonna just return it as an object. So if and I, see what I do with that in a second. Okay, so now that we've basically what we've done is just done like a subtraction between the actual time of death timestamp and this, and then we'll just see which one is closest to 0, and that one will serve as our week of death, basically. Oof. So then with calc.sort AB d3 dot sending A dot diff, B dot diff. And actually, we want it to be absolute value, right? Do we? Let's see. If it was less than, that means it's in the previous week. So no, we don't want it to be absolute value, but we do want to filter out anything that's negative. Filter d dot diff is greater than or equal to 0. And so then I'll sort it. And then finally, we can pop out the first one and grab the index. So const week of death index equals with calc dot, actually not pop. We want descending if we want to do pop. Pop dot I is what I called it, just to preserve that. Whew. Just to make sure that's working. Log I. And see what happens. Actually, let's console.log I and what's in that. Okay. It's not too, let's see, population. All right. If this is going to work, that was a lot of code without running something. npm run prepare web. It's not defined. Of course, it's not. What I tried to do that. Week of death. Almost worked. Hey, so that looks like it's working actually quite well, except for the last one. And I have a feeling that's because it's it was like the last one. So who was after Vinnie Paul? It might just be I haven't rerun the other data yet, so it doesn't.
Wasn't his name like Richard or something like that?
The last one.
Yeah, the last guy.
Okay, let's oops, console ID. Oh, and I bet it's because, yeah, I bet it's because his death fell in the most recent week, which was probably truncated from the data set because it wasn't a full week, which means that's fine. He shouldn't be in this data set anyways. I should probably do that in filter population. But how? Or let's see. Yeah, I should probably do that in filter population because I don't want them to slide through. So let's see if the easiest way, I suppose, is if they're, what are we looking at here? We're looking at explore. Oops. Let's see. Shit, that's not enough information. I make this so hard myself. Where was Explorer created? should be down in here. All right, so we should actually just add the timestamp of death to explore. Sorry, timestamp. Yeah, no, timestamp of death, which all deaths. Have it. Actually, let's X of death. We have timestamp. I might be overthinking this. How about I just filter them out here? I think that's fine. So that means with calc. All right, so if with calc dot length, it can move on, do all this stuff. We're gonna have to fix. Otherwise, it will just return an empty array. So then that person will just be totally next. I'll do that for now. All right, so back to this. The output we want to be is the same exact thing. Timestamp index, death index is now the week dex index for this one. Page ID, timestamp, views, traffic. That looks good. And then I'll write it out as web data on page views by week. Oof. See how that goes. F index. Oops. Week. F index. Okay, let's see what that put out in our web data folder. Does that make sense? No, not at all. Right, need week. And it should actually be week minus. All right. Okay, I think we're good now. So we've got the week in there. We don't really care about timestamp index. Week death index is what we care about. So let's find one. Remember, this is everybody concatenated. So someone further down. Nice. So we see the negatives, which means this was 97 weeks before the death. So it should go to 0. So this should be the week of death. And that works. Cool. Ooh, that was a lot. So let me actually run everything else. Actually, I think I'm going to do a full run from start to finish because I've changed a bunch of files. So I want to just make sure like everything is still in working order. So let's check the make file. I'm pretty sure I added the by week. I did. Let's do this. Here. Produce. And let's sit back and wait for errors. Because I'm hot.
This one's running way slower.
Were you talking?
I just said this one's running way slower.
Oh, because it's doing like the get page views.
Got it.
So it's hitting an API.
Well, then, in that case, it's going not that slow.
It's also hot. I have a feeling my computer is not doing so great.
I missed because I relocated.
You didn't miss much. I just made it run.
Cool.
You can always rewind, I suppose. I suppose an outstanding item I'm going to put this on the to-do is I think we're going to have a little issue because I was talking about the filtering population. Like that last person is going to be not in the biweekly data set, but he still will be in the regular people data. I'm just going to actually add a GitHub issue to remind myself to
deal with him.
validate that at some point.
That makes sense.
To make a decision on how many days, weeks, long. Okay. All right, maybe I can think about what to do next while that's running. Besides answering emails. All right, so in theory, I did this. Okay, calculate percent change in page views. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm talking about here. Do I think? Oh yeah, what do you think about the idea of? Yeah, I'm looking for my screen. What do you think about the idea of plotting everything rather than in terms of percent traffic of Wikipedia as a change or a percent change of the normal traffic for that person? So the chart would be relative to them. So like, I won't use percents. Let's just use raw numbers for this. For like, if their average page views is 50 a day, then 0 on the y-axis would mean, right, 0% change from their average. But like, if they hit 200, it would be up to 4. Well, I guess 400%. Wait, right? Yeah, 400% higher. So then it would always be, so then you'd actually be able to, so then you'd be comparing, so people wouldn't be compared like by their absolute representation of page views or even percent of traffic. So then I feel like the charts might look more similar, or they'd be more, you'd be able to compare people that are like on different magnitudes to each other. Does that seem valid? That seems like it might work.
Yeah, I like that. I like when it's scaled per person. Like you said, you can actually make it's more readable, I think, each chart, because like Stephen Hawking versus like the surgeon or something like that. They're going to be hard to compare.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, that's the only other thing I would need to calculate. So, and that should be easy because we already have, the average calculated for everybody. So it would really just be comparing the page. So basically, this would just be another column on their page view data. So if we look at page views, instead of percent traffic, which is of Wikipedia, it would be percent change compared to their own baseline. Yeah, okay, I might add that one in. That could be interesting. I guess, where is that going to go? So I can't even do that until, actually, I think it goes in here because I don't even add that into the explore section. That's when I add the average. So I'll just, so basically, and I think I'm going to compare it to their overall average. I guess, does that make the most sense, or should I compare it to their average before they died? Because that might be more of what they're, you see what I'm saying? How, because like some people we've noticed have, let's see if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I like before too.
I think I do too.
Because
that's essentially that's like establishing their living.
Yeah, the baseline. Yeah, we said baseline at the same time.
All right, I'm going to go with that. I also have no idea what that's going to end up looking like. So I think I just wanted to have another option of how to plot stuff. So in prepare for web, that means for each row, which is happening here, we also just need a change baseline. And so the baseline is const living baseline. What I have, I don't need to call it living baseline. We have a thing for it. It's median. Well, I'm not doing views. I'll just do this for percent, I think. Median. Set. Oh, did I not do this one? Median views after. I only did it for views. Shoot. I'll have to rerun the Exploit script. Median percent traffic. Get median sides. Sweet. So I just have to pass another option. Wherever it says views. So it can be part of this function. And instead of doing this, in views object. So median views before is actually a lot. It's certainly a lot. Okay. I don't even remember where I was going with this now. Yeah, median percent traffic for. So then we can just use that somewhere in here. I don't even remember any more percent traffic. I probably need traffic before. But change baseline views. Sweet. All right, that was a lot. Everything worked too, which is cool. So let's just rerun it. Explore on. Explore. Last time, so. Think. Oh, shucks. DNF is not the founder. Correct. Oh, so close. Medium views before. Right. All right, so Yak. I don't even know, what did we just do? We just did a lot of things.
Did it start with the death index? No, it was before that.
It was. I think. Death index and or actually that's terrible. It doesn't matter. All right, I think I did all the things that I wanted to do. Format, text, strike through. Let's see what the web data now looks like in our Explore folder. So now we should have 3 files in there. Your people, which should look the same-ish. What did we add? Oh, we added the median views before and after. Did we add the median percent traffic before and after? Yep. That's about it. Otherwise, it's the same. Page views. Yep, it has now the death index, which is a good thing. I think that hopefully makes sense. We'll definitely be able to check when we start plotting it, but we should see a lot of negatives. The more negatives this way, so like this last person should have a ton of negatives. Yeah, that's good. Do we add anything to this? Oh, change baseline views and change baseline percent traffic. Oh yeah, nice. Be curious to see what those look like. Oh yeah, perfect. So this works. So see, baseline, like it only went up like 1%. Like actually baseline. Oh no, 1 will be no change. So you see it's like hovering around 1 because it's basically around average. And then you see this one, it's 272 times, which is at 0 death index, which makes sense. So that's actually pretty cool. you can see like that perfect drop back to about 1. So this actually might be the way to do it now I'm thinking about it. Let's actually look at like David Bowie to get a sense. Bowie's page ID is, oh shoot, where's his page ID? No, I don't know where it is. Page ID. Shoot. Okay, so if we go to page views, there he is. So, all right. So before we can see like the median, it's 0.7, which means it's a little lower than average, up to 2.7 here. But it's kind of hovering around 1. As this negative purple number approaches 0, or once it hits 0, oh, so interesting. So I'm assuming, Caitlin, do you remember Bowie's death?
Yeah, I think it was January 2017, if I'm correct. Do you want the date?
I hope it's not January. Oh, wait, I see January 10th.
2016.
Does that seem really wrong?
Wait, let me just make sure. 2016 feels.
That seems wrong.
Yeah, no. January 10th, 2016.
Shut up. It was 2 years ago?
Yeah, I know, right? I totally thought it was 2017.
Okay, so it was January 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any indication of like what time it was at? Because it actually looks like all the traffic was the next day.
I remember.
I'm assuming it came out like super late at night.
Yeah, I think maybe it was like the morning of January 11th. I remember it was a morning where I was like, this is when I was still working at AP, and yeah, it was in the morning when I was doing all the content for it.
Okay, well that validates this, because the day of death is actually here. It's at like three times greater than normal, which is obviously not a lot, and the day after it's 613 times.
Yeah, I distinctly remember it being in the morning. So I guess it was the morning of January 11th, but if you keep going, I can make sure.
No, this seems to add up. So that's actually really interesting, looking at these numbers are much easier to grasp than those page views, because 613 to 261 to 91 to 66, and you can see like slowly trickling back down. This more typical number. So yeah, this might actually end up being more interesting as a line chart, showing the percent change compared to their baseline. Anyways, that data is in there now. And the page views by week is also in here. This one I don't have. This one we never calculated a baseline. But maybe I want to just actually plot the week stuff first to see where we even get there. So, but it's in here. So it looks like we have everything we need. Yeah, I think all the things that I want to actually investigate now are in the data, which is good. Let me look back at this. Okay, cool. So I think what's the next thing I'm going to do? I kind of want to start sketching some stuff out. But there's also like a lot of different ways I want to explore this now, because like we're talking about exploring it by week. We're talking about exploring it starting at 0 index being day of death. Now we have this new variable, the baseline change. I feel like I'm wondering if I should create new scripts for each different like exploration, or if I should just create like a drop down so I can just toggle it as I'm looking at it. Also, I'm not sure if small multiples makes as much sense to try to put everything on a single chart. That might be more telling.
It seems like the startup cost of the drop down will be larger, but will it save time in the long run between switching between scripts?
It's a good question.
This is an answer I feel like you'll know better than me.
I mean, if I'm only looking at, I know. I have a horrible tendency to over-engineer, especially when I'm like just doing exploration stuff. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, because like some of them it's a global scale. Some of them we're talking about maybe an individual scale. Okay. I think I've also been going for a little while, so I might take a break real quick after this. But I think actually this might be a good stopping point, to be honest. I think I'm going to stop here, and then I'll pick up another one soon. And I think my plan is to at least change the small multiples to having everything rendered on the chart, and then maybe just like a slider or something to highlight the different people. So then I can just kind of slide through all the people and look at their curves on a single chart, which may or may not. I guess it depends if I want the chart to be scaled to them or not. That would actually make me not want to put them all on the same chart. But why wouldn't I? Would want a global scale, because I'm going to have to compare them at some point. And you can't compare people if they don't have the same scale. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. When we pick back up, I'm going to change our small multiples to one chart where everybody's on it, and then just a little slider to toggle between the people. And then in terms of actually exploring all the different ways of looking at this, I think I'll probably just create a script for each. So then it's not a bunch of like commented out code or an overly complex function that toggles between the different types of scales or something. Anyways, and then also I think I want to start sketching out. Fine.
You're just a pulsating P now.
It's like telling me to take a break. Yeah, and then I think I have a bunch of ideas of just kind of how the charts could look in a narrative setting. So I might start sketching those out to see if the data is going to support my vision, to see what I can start like crossing off. All right, that's it for now. Bye, everybody.